All right. Hi, everyone. 7 o'clock. Let's get this show on the road. Hi there. Welcome to this meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. I'm President Bob Tremblay. Do we have any first timers? Right. No, so I could dispense with that. All right. Tonight we have our annual board officer elections in place of our short talk, and our feature talk will be updates on light pollution solutions by Robert. How do you pronounce your last name? Stencel. Oh, I need my glasses. Sorry. All right. If you want to renew your membership, that guy right there. And if you want to pay for your banquet tickets, that guy right there. Calendar. And the calendars. Do we have any calendars down there?
I got two.
I'm getting only two. Oh, okay, good. Okay, so as let's do roll call. Hi, I'm Bob Tremblay.
Dale Davey.
David Ransky.
Dale Martin. Jim Shandowski. Mark Kitchen. Jeff McLeod.
Charles Strackmine.
Tom Silvernash. Bernie Nish.
Noah Mish. Cheryl Kaplan.
Ellen Kaplan. Murray Hoffman. Sonny Spidos.
Tina Wong.
Brian Wazowski.
Joe Manning, new member.
All right. Hi, everyone. All right. Announcements. It's with great sadness we have to announce that Kathy Kippen, wife of a longtime WASP member Bill Kippen, passed away Monday, October 21st at the age of 65. Services were held last Saturday, and Bob Berta was able to attend that. Very sad news. WASP wearables like shirts and things like that, things that you can find in our newsletter, are available from Mark Kedzier over there. Banquet. Our banquet speaker is Nicole Zellner. Her topic will be women in space, although I think it's something different in the newsletter, pretty much the same. Tickets are $35 here or $40 at the door. We need 35 attendees. Was it? Okay, so get those payments in early. You can pay via PayPal on our site, and I actually did that today, and it's not obvious. You go to the join menu option on the website, go down to the bottom where it says send your dues to our treasurer, and then you click that and you just put your name in for the banquet, and you put $35 a person. So I did that this afternoon. So Mark Kedzier and David will be crewing the check-in table and doing the raffle. You're doing the raffle, right?
No.
You don't? Oh, well, okay. Maybe I'll be doing the raffle. So our calendars are here. Our 2025 member astrophoto calendars are available for $20. I have a couple here, and Mark has some. If you're interested in helping put on astronomy at the beach next year, and they're going to need more board members and help, I am positive, come January. Their meetings are the second Monday of every month, and get with me, I can get you signed up with that. I got an email this afternoon from one of our members who is also a science fiction fan. I know her from science fiction conventions in the local area for years. This is going to be at the main branch of the Detroit Public Library. It's story time for Star Trek lovers. Author Stephen Barnes was a pro guest of honor at DETCON 1, which was the North American Science Fiction Convention in 2014 that I helped put on. And he has written over 30 novels in the genres of science fiction, horror, suspense, and he's done things for The Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits, and Stargate SG-1. He's going to be talking, yeah. And another person, Derek Tyler Adigo, is an author, essayist, and award-winning photographer. His most recent book is the critically acclaimed The Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, who was a Starfleet captain and DS9. So anyway, if you want to contact, if you want to go see that, that is this Saturday, November 9th at 2 p.m., main branch of the Detroit Public Library. So if you're a big Star Trek fan, there you go. So, officer reports, I was at this MISD event, Macomb Reads, last Saturday, and wow, there were a lot of people there. This is a fantastic event. They had me in a corner right in the middle of traffic. So I was exhausted on Saturday and Sunday after that. But they're going to be doing it again next year. They're going to invite us back, and one of the people that put the event on invited me to help them with an online learning program. They're going to be using H.A. Ray's The Stars book as a theme material, and they want me to talk about constellations. I'm like, you might want to have my wife, but okay. But anyway, so it was a great event. I got an email today from the IAU with new asteroid listings. And anybody drink espresso here? No? No espresso? One? Espresso now is an asteroid named after it. And let's see, it was this Mount Evans Observatory was the discovery. And the citation reads, originating in Italy, espresso is a full-flavored, concentrated form of coffee made by forcing pressurized hot water through very finely ground compacted coffee beans. Espresso has become one of the world's most beloved drinks, either enjoyed alone or in small shots or as is. Okay, so espresso as an asteroid, so Dale, our first VP, I know exactly what he's going to say.
Yes, you do. Just to tell everyone, I'm always looking for speakers. I need both long and short presentations. I actually am
Sorry. Mike. Electric mic.
hello.
Why is that not working? That's all.
Ooh. Ooh, I can hear the reverb. Yes, I'm always in need of more people to give presentations, both long and short. I'm actually a little short on short presentations right now, but I could use both. So please see me at the break or email me to let me know if you have something, okay? And we're talking like March through April and May next year is the time frame I'm looking for presentations.
So you filled up January and February?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, I need a short presentation in February. Cheerio.
All right, thanks. Let's see, Riyadh is not here right now. So we won't have an observatory report, but I think we were cloudy last time when you were there. I'm not sure. Okay, David, what is going on with Treasury?
Okay, so in the checking account, we have $22,580 and some change. Nothing due on our credit cards. PayPal, we've got $430.59. And in the cash box, we have a little over $400 and some odd change. That's it.
Right. I'll actually be able to see what I'm doing. All right, Charlie, what is going on with our secretary?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Charles Strackman, and I'm the secretary of this fine organization. And thank you. Well, just a little bit of casual formalities here. I have some summaries of the October board meeting to mention here. Our Cranbrook and Macomb meetings have been published in this month's issue of the WASP. And the meeting name or the group name tags were left at my home office, and I will have them at next Macomb meetings and Cranbrook meetings. We have one new member to announce. He joined about a month ago. His name's Peter Lemire. I think he just arrived. And are there any other new members here? And your name again? Hi. Pardon? Jill Manning? All right. Well, we have Jill Manning here, and I'll have a name tag for you next month or next meeting. And we continue to have strong attendance, in-room attendance here. In October, we had at Cranbrook 43 attendees in the room. And in October, the Macomb meeting, we had 19 members. So I'd like to encourage all members to attend in person, as we have, I think, some great meetings in person. And I have some select October board meeting notes. The banquet presentation topic was a significant point of discussion. The filming of the banquet speaker was discussed.
Yeah, the banquet speaker, I contacted her and says, what would you like the topic to be? I said, well, what do you got? And she sends me like 6 things. And I tell them, they're like, I want all of them. They're all so good. So you might be seeing our banquet speaker later on in the year, speaking about some of these other things that we didn't pick for the banquet.
Yeah. And so we also talked about filming the banquet speaker so that we can put her on our WASP website. As that would be, I think, a great thing. So we approved that. And then the secretary report specifically is we sent 30 letters out to various astronomy groups and retailers soliciting gifts for our banquet raffle. We used 73-cent stamps. They were the James Webb Telescope edition, which I thought was really cool. We talked about Stargate Observatory improvements, and we're looking for members to join our committee, focusing on existing light pollution and other improvements for the Stargate. And if you are interested in joining that committee, please don't hesitate to contact me, either at secretary@astro.org.com, warrenastro.org, secretary@warrenastro.org. And that's about it for this month. Thank you, everyone.
All right, outreach, Jeff, anything going on? What? Who's what now? Oh, Riyadh. Our second VP and our observatory chair. What is going on at Stargate? I was thinking about this on the way here. I got to get back with you about occultations.
Oh, yeah.
About observing some of those there.
All right. Hello, everyone. So we had our open house on the, I think it was the 28th of last month. And we had a clear night. We had a lot of people that showed up, a lot of visitors, and we also had some members that showed up. We looked at a lot of things. We bounced around between many different objects. It was a really good night. We were there until I think about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. By the time we left, we were even looking at Mars before we left. So I encourage all of you, if you can, to make it to our next open house, which is on the 26th, to come out and join us. There's a lot to do. So we can keep you busy and entertained and observing for quite a while. We also had a bunch of people out there with their own telescopes set up outside. You can talk to them. You could view through their scopes. You could come inside the observatory and warm up and observe with us. So I highly recommend it. So come on out to the next open house, and hopefully we'll see you all out there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hey, when I was at this MISD event this last weekend, I gave away probably 4 inches worth of our flyers, and I was telling everybody about the observatory, and I had at least 3 Girl Scout leaders ask if they could come out, and I'm like, yeah, come on out. So Jeff, what is up?
All right, hey y'all, I'm Outreach. October was a little slow. I did some stuff with the Nature Center. Dale Parton spoke to Mensa, and then I gave a talk at the Seven Ponds Club. Only things on the book for November, I see a hand up. Oh, well, went right past me. Okay. He was at that MISD, is that the acronym?
Macomb Intermediate School District.
And then Mark Kedzier is gonna be at the Warren Civic Library 6th, so 2 days. Yep. What time? 6 p.m. So go check that out. If you guys do any outreach, please email me. If you just tell me in passing, I'm gonna forget. So if you email info or outreach, I will definitely get it in the report. If you want to get involved, you can also just email me and say, hey, put me on the list. And then when I get things, I'll like send it directly to you. Like, hey, this library, are you anywhere near there? What kind of stuff do you like? There's easy outreach and there's hard outreach. We used to do a lot more the tiger cubs here in Cranbrook. Boy, that was a trial by fire. But it makes you stronger.
That was really cool. They had those cardboard Dobsonians and.
Yeah, and then they have like stuff in the back that
Yeah,
they
we
were
had to
pointing at.
walk the solar system down this huge hallway here. Oh, cool, yeah.
Just the banquet. Please come to the banquet. It's gonna be a good time.
The speaker is excellent. He really is.
If you're familiar with our history, she's given a couple presentations to us. Her stuff on lunar regolith, like she is the expert. She's the closest, most seasoned expert on lunar regolith that you're ever gonna find.
She's an astronomy professor.
She is an astronomy professor.
Albeit.
And yeah, she's a full-blown professor, not an associate professor. Capital. Okay. All right.
Okay, Vachalia, anything to say?
No.
Publications? Okay, that's fine. Publications are up. Actually got to get with you about some stuff Facebook. So I'll get with you on the break about that. All right, so our newsletter is up, our award-winning newsletter editor right there. So take a look at our newsletter. It's awesome. If you need to contact us on the board, contact board@warrenastro.org. Yeah, all right. So astronomy news. Do my exoplanet update. Pretty cool thing today. 5765 confirmed, up 20, 7236, up 5 candidates. And among last month's new exoplanets are 5 sub-Earths, 3 of them ranking in the top 10 smallest exoplanets discovered to date. And I must admit, I'm embarrassed to say, I have a presentation on exoplanets, and I was unaware that we have discovered anything smaller than the Earth, but apparently there's 10 of them. So that's interesting. So Europa Clipper mission launched on October 14th after a 4-day delay. And you can follow that on NASA's Eyes on the Solar System app, which I'll probably actually do a short presentation about that, Dale. But it's really funny because they had the whole mission laid out. You could follow the mission from the launch date when it was 4 days earlier. And then after the launch date, they only had it going out past the Earth. They've been updating all the dates of all the different encounters, but you can follow it from its flyby of Mars back around the Earth and 3 flybys of Ganymede so far. It's pretty cool. So we're still waiting on T Corona Borealis, but I found out today that if you can go to spaceweather.com, fantastic site, over on the sidebar, there is a yellow T Corona Nova Watch, and it's giving you the current magnitude and it said, and I didn't know this, is that when the nova explodes, the visual magnitude of the star will jump from +10, invisible to the naked eye, to +2, about as bright as the North Star. I thought it was still going to be invisible, but apparently not. So an X-class flare on the sun 3 days ago, an X2. Bring this up right here. There is, oh, mouse, thank you. A whole lot going on this time, actually, for our Zoom audience. I will share that screen. This is from the NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory. So that is the sun from about an hour ago. So there's some monster sunspots on there. So I found on Facebook, I just signed up for CME alerts. And they have got a they announce all these flares and everything like that. Let's see if I can get my notes up here. Because on solar activity, somebody posted that as a processed image of the sun's surface. And you can see, again, I'm going to share that for our Zoom audience. Here's that. There we go. You're still in the way. Get out of there. Okay. So this is a extremely photoshopped image of the sun's surface. And what you're seeing, it kind of looks like hairy. Those are called specules. And that's like literally plasma hair on the sun, but that's the surface of the sun. Isn't that cool? Yeah, that's on the solar activity group on Facebook. So, if anyone, okay, so observing reports, anybody have any observing reports before I get to the ones that people gave me to show? No, okay. Okay. Pardon me? Oh. Oh, never mind, figured it out. Okay. Go away. All right, so first I'm going to show Angela's. Go away, you might have been in my way. That. All right, so Angela, you want to tell them about this? Yeah, no, up here.
I have a grandson who's a 2-year aero engineering major, and he was out at Zion last week. He was out at Zion.
Working?
And he's interested in astronomy. And so one night they went out and to look at the stars. And he's looking at the stars, and he couldn't believe how many stars he saw in the sky. He couldn't distinguish the constellation. So then he's looking around, he turns around, and there's the Milky Way staring him right in the face. And he was so impressed by it. So he took a picture with a cell phone. And lo and behold, as he took a picture of the cell phone, there's Comet Atlas right there. You see that? Pure coincidence that he captured the comet streaking across. What happened to my picture?
I zoomed way in. There's your
Oh, that's
comment.
okay.
There's
That's
your
okay.
comment.
Yeah. Okay, it's there. But anyway, that's one of the best pictures of the Milky Way that I've seen. And I know I'm prejudiced, but that's beautiful. And the thing about it is, it's right after sunset over the mountains of Zion. And how many stars are in this picture? It's just unbelievable, right down to the horizon where the sun just set. And doggone if there's the comet and the Milky Way. And look at the clarity of the Milky Way. These phones are fantastic. So the funny thing is,
What kind of phone was it?
it was a Samsung phone. It's like yeah, handheld. That's all he had. You know, they were hiking. Oh, I got to take a picture. So basically, so then he's looking at the picture, sees the comet. He said, "Oh my God!" He looks back up at the sky and he couldn't see it. You know, the phones are so sensitive that they picked up the comet, but naked eye wise, he couldn't find it. And the same thing happened with me when we had the aurora. I could see the light in the sky, but when I took the picture with my phone, the colors came out. So you know, these phones are much more sensitive. Anyway, amazing. I think I'm gonna frame that thing.
That's really cool.
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So which one's Bob? You want me to show? This one?
What is the, color one? Wow. Polarized.
Yeah.
Sure. Some of you might have been at the,
Hold on, I'm just getting it shared here. There we go.
some of you might have been at the college, meeting, where I showed this, and the next picture I'll be showing you, but I thought these are pretty cool pictures. This is September, I think it was about the 16th, I think. But anyway, this is taken, with all the light pollution, right? Solar images, light pollution isn't an issue. This is a 60mm blunt H-alpha scope. And the way you take these, you take a video, and you take, this is about, I think about maybe a 2-minute long video. And then the software takes every frame in that video and treats it as an individual picture, takes all those individual frames and rates them as far as sharpness and, you know, contrast and everything, because even though it's a short amount of time in a movie, the scene constantly changes over just parts of a second. So when you go through all these pictures, the software says, pick out the best 15%, blow the other parts away. So this is, I think it was about 4,000 frames of video that are stacked, perfectly stacked, and the 15% are chosen from those 4,000. And then it's done in black and white because when you use a mono camera, you get higher resolution and more signal to noise. The cameras you can use for solar are inexpensive relatively compared to regular cameras. They're about, I think I paid about $280 or something for this. I think Gil and I have the same camera. Very unsophisticated cameras. There's no cooler on it or anything else not needed. Okay, so that was, you might say, where are the flares? I don't have flares on that one because on that particular day, the prominences were kind of uneventful. So I'm hoping to go out again on a nice clear day. Now that we have now in Solar Max, so we should get some great pictures with the images around it. What this has on it, the white is a hotter part of the corona. The darker, the black lines are the flares off the sun that normally you would see going off the side of the sun. But when they're coming at you at the sun, they're changing the frequency of the light because they're moving so quickly. So that's why they look like little like Linton there. And the ones that are kind of the spread out gray, that's one that's kind of dissipated. And the areas around the sunspots, those black circles, roundish areas are the sunspots. The area around that is the active region. If you blow those up, I don't know if I can do it. Finger on here, can you blow it up? Oh.
There's controls on it. Yeah, stop that. There we go.
There you go. So anyway, so you can see that these areas around that, the distortion in the flux, not flux, plasma. The plasma on the sun is being distorted by the action of that sunspot. Okay, that's that thing. And then some of you remember about a month ago, I brought a picture I did from my backyard in Macomb Township.
That one?
Not that, no, just the one that's about the original.
Get out of there.
Yep. Okay, this is Sharpless 2, number 174. Sharpless is a fellow who focused only on the nebulas and some planetary nebulas. And this is very close to Polaris, so it's easy to see. Well, I shouldn't say easy to see, it's easy to find. It's pretty faint, very faint. This was taken with a hyperstar originally. And this is about a 3.5 degree wide field of view in the whole image. that actual nebula is about half the size of the moon. So I said, this is a cool object. Let me see what I can do with a lot more exposure and zooming in with my, this was taken again with my 8-inch telescope with a hyperstar. But let's see what I can do with the same thing with about 25 hours of constant imaging of this thing over multiple days in September and October. This is the same thing. I love this picture. It's so cool. All the gases and everything around it. It's just, I think that now is my favorite picture I've taken. It's just an amazing picture. Anyway, that's again, that's Sharpless 2, 174. All right.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else have any observing reports or anything? Well, as I've said in the newsletter, I have a newly repaired telescope. Thanks, Mark. And I've taken my granddaughter out several times to look at different phases of the moon now. And so that's been awesome. I've used it more in the past week and a half than I have in the past about 8 years. So, well, it was busted.
Hey, Bob,
What?
I don't know if our observatory chair is on or not, but we were out till 3:30 at the last open house. I think my fingers were nearly frozen solid by the time we quit. It was a spectacular night.
I don't know if that's a record, but that's pretty darn late.
Yeah, it was excellent. Good clarity and excellent seeing that night.
Nice. All right. So, well, we're a little early, but we can start with the elections now. If you want to. All right. So, get the PowerPoint. Wow, that's beautiful, Bob. Let's see, election. Okay. Go away. Where I need 2 screens. Wow. Not the right mark. Yeah. All right.
I have 2025. It'll be the officers of the 2025. Right? Yeah, that's all.
Fine. Oh, I see what's going on. I need 2 screens to do this, so I want to, but Charlie, I don't know what's going on. I'm not sharing the right screen. second screen. That one presentation. That's what the audience.
What the audience is seeing.
Right. All right, so it's just mouse up and down, advance. Or which one? What do you got?
We could do this.
Just that.
outside,
Okay, so I can do that arrow. Okay, good. All right.
or the opposite.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Warren Astronomical Society annual election of the Board of Directors for 2025. I'm going to call the meeting to order with my trusty gavel. Okay. Does that sound pretty good? This doesn't move here, so. Okay, anyway. How do you get this on? Like that? I'll just go right there. All right. Okay, the annual election of the Warren Astronomical Society Board of Directors for 2025 is now called to order. The Warren Astronomical Society bylaws, Article 4, Board of Directors, is it on there? Okay. I'm reading right off this. Okay. So
I'm sorry. Let me just reshare. For this, you might be set up with the money, but for that, you can or I can. You just. This
Okay,
one.
let's do that one.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. Hopefully they don't have this problem in the elections tomorrow. The Warren Astronomical Society, the bylaws, Article 5, Section 5.01, the qualifications of the officers. Must be at least 18 years of age, must have been a member in good standing for 1 year, must maintain his or her membership in good standing during their term of office. Okay, tonight's election background and procedures. Being the chairperson of the nominating committee, I have received names of candidates willing to serve for the offices of president, first vice president, second vice president, secretary, treasurer, outreach director, and publications director. Nominations will be sought for each office from the floor of the membership assembly. Nominations need not be seconded. Nominees will be asked if they accept the nomination. One may nominate themselves for any office during the election process. After 3 calls for nominations from the floor, the chairperson will close nominations for that office. Okay. Bylaws, Article 5, Section 502, election and term of office. Candidates running for any office uncontested will be elected by acclamation, either by show of hands or applause. If the office is contested, a secret ballot will take place. Ooh, a secret ballot. And the term of any office is for a period of 1 year, with no individual being able to serve more than 3 consecutive terms for the same office. And all the duties and responsibilities of each board office are listed under Article 5, Sections 5.03 through 5.09, and that's from the bylaws of the Warren Astronomical Society. Nominations are now open for the office of president. Briefly, the president shall preside at all of the meetings of the board of directors. He shall have other powers and duties as may be assigned by the board, and shall appoint committee chairpersons. The nominating committee has received the name of Bob Tremblay to run for the office of president. If elected, this will be his 3rd consecutive term for the office of president. Bob, are you willing to run for the office of president? Bob has said yes. Okay. At this time, are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of president? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of president? Okay. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of president? If there are no other nominations from the floor for the office of president, nominations are now closed. And by virtue of this nomination being uncontested, Bob Tremblay is elected president of the Warren Astronomical Society by acclamation. Congratulations. Nominations are now open for the office of first vice president, program chair. And we can see some of the duties of the first vice president. And he performs all the duties of the presidents in their absence or inability to serve. And he, as you know, everything that the first vice president does with getting these meetings with the speakers and everything. But those are all the qualifications or duties of the first vice president. The nominating committee has received the name of Dale Parton to run for the office of first vice president program chair. If elected, this will be his 3rd consecutive term for the office of first vice president program chair. Dale, are you willing to run for the office of first vice president program chair?
Yeah.
And you guys are yes. There you go. At this time, are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of first vice president? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of first vice president? And one last time, are there any nominations from the floor for the office of first vice president? If there are no other nominations from the floor for the office of first vice president program chair, nominations are now closed, and by virtue of this nomination being uncontested, Dale Parton is elected first vice president program chair of the Warren Astronomical Society by acclamation. Congratulations, Dale. Nominations are now open for the office of Second Vice President, Observatory Chair. And he performs all the duties of the president in the absence of the president and the first vice president. And he also gets to play around in the observatory with all those cool things. Big job. The nominating committee has received the name of Riyad Mahdi to run for the office of Second Vice President Observatory Chair. If elected, this will be a second consecutive term serving in the office of Second Vice President Observatory Chair. Riyad, are you willing to run for the office of Second Vice President Observatory Chair? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joe. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Second Vice President Observatory Chair? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Second Vice President Observatory Chair? One final time, last chance. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Second Vice President Observatory Chair? If there are no other nominations from the floor for the office of Second Vice President Observatory Chair, nominations are now closed, and by virtue of this nomination being uncontested, Riyad Mahdi is elected Second Vice President Observatory Chair of the Warren Astronomical Society by acclamation. Congratulations, Riyad. Nominations are now open for the office of Secretary. The secretary shall be custodian of all the records and documents of this corporation, keep the minutes of all the meetings of the board and executive committees, and perform other duties that are incident to the office of secretary or may be assigned by the board. The nominating committee has received the name of Charles Strapping to run for the office of secretary. If elected, this will be a second consecutive term serving in the office of secretary. Charles, are you willing to run for the office of secretary? Yeah. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of secretary? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of secretary? And one final time, are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of secretary? If there are no other nominations from the floor for the office of secretary, nominations are now closed. And by virtue of this nomination being uncontested, Charles Strackbine is elected secretary of the Warren Astronomical Society by acclamation. Congratulations, Charles. Nominations are now open for the office of treasurer. And the treasurer shall do a lot of things. And jingle that cash box, right? There you go. All right. Enough explained. You can read all that stuff while I'm going through this here, all right? The nominating committee has received the name of Dave Baranski to run for the office of treasurer. If elected, this will be a second consecutive term serving in the office of treasurer. Dave, are you willing to run for the office of treasurer? That is an affirmative. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of treasurer? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of treasurer? And one final time, don't get any ideas here. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of treasurer? If there are no other nominations from the floor for the office of treasurer, nominations are now closed, and by virtue of this nomination being uncontested, Dave Baranski is elected treasurer of the Warren Astronomical Society by acclamation. Thank you, Dave. Congratulations. Nominations are now open for the office of Outreach Director. The Outreach Director shall plan major public events, solicit volunteers for said events, communicate with park systems, oh yeah, educational groups and other astronomy clubs to satisfy this corporation's purpose as cited in section 2.01A. The nominating committee has received the name of Jeff McLeod to run for the office of Outreach Director. If elected, this will be a second consecutive term serving in the office of Outreach Director. Jeff, are you willing to run for the office of Outreach Director? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Outreach Director? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Outreach Director? And one final time, are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Outreach Director? If there are no other nominations from the floor for the office of Outreach Director, nominations are now closed, and by virtue of this nomination being uncontested, Jeff McLeod is elected Outreach Director of the Warren Astronomical Society by acclamation. Congratulations, Jeff. Nominations are now open for the office of Publications Director. The Publications Director shall edit and publish a monthly newsletter and other publications, write and solicit articles for said publications. The nominating committee has received the name of Achalya Dandibatla to run for the office of Publications Director. If elected, this will be her second consecutive term serving in the office of Publications Director. Achalya, are you willing to run for the office of Publications Director? That was a yes, right? All right, all right. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Publications Director? Are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Publications Director? And one final time, are there any other nominations from the floor for the office of Publications Director? There are no other nominations from the floor for the office of Publications Director, and by virtue of this nomination being uncontested, Achalya Dandibatla is elected Publications Director of the Warren Astronomical Society by acclamation. Congratulations, Achalya. And also a big round of applause to our elected officers of the 2025 WAS Board of Directors. Could I have a motion to close and adjourn this meeting? Dale moved, and who did? And then we got right there, Laurel, second. All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? I thought so. Okay. It might be. The 2025 election of the officers of the Warren Astronomical Society is closed and adjourned. Now back to our regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you. That's closed. Actually, want to go back to this first page of this. Hey, where's my mouse? Very first page.
Yeah, sure, there was-
No, I just want to see. Candidates running for any office uncontested will be elected by acclamation. Has that ever happened? Hey, yeah. All right, so, are we early? We are 7:30. Oh, we're not early. Well, unfortunately, we usually stop for a snack break here, but it looks like it's just gonna be a social break. I have 2 cans of Diet Coke. If anybody wants one?
There's snacks outside.
There are snacks outside. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's see, we're early, so let's reconvene at 8:25. And that's 25 minutes, well, maybe a half hour. And we will have our feature talk then. So go get a bio break, go to Munchie. Talk to your neighbor about astronomy and space science.
Sure.
That. Gallery. Hi. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know who's doing a presentation. Is he online? Oh, okay, he's online. Don't worry about it then. 5-minute warning. Say, Robert, you ready to start? Hi there.
Dale, audio check.
Well, I'm hearing you on Zoom, okay? Are you hearing him?
Yes, I can hear you, and I'll have to give you a next slide, please, cue when the times come.
Right.
Thank you.
It's, I'm not hearing you on the overhead mics,
You're
though.
needing a
Yeah.
sound check. Help me talk for a little moment here. ABC, EFG.
No, it's,
HIJK.
I don't think Bob's got you connected to the system audio yet. Hey, Bob?
Oh,
Yes.
Can you connect your computer to the overhead speakers?
Yeah. Should be. Not. Yeah, well, I gotta, apparently you have an audio speaker. Thought that was good. Is it not coming through?
You're coming through Zoom, but you're not coming through the overhead speakers.
sound check, sound check.
Why? Right now? Oh,
All right, sound check, sound check.
Oh, there you are.
yeah, it
All
was
right.
good up here.
Okay.
All right, I think we're ready.
Yay.
Go ahead, Dan.
Hello, everyone. Whoa. Feel a little deafened after that. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight it's a privilege to introduce our speaker, Robert Stencel. He's a retired professor of astronomy, taught at the University of Denver, where he also managed the 1894 Chamberlin Observatory, as well as the high-altitude Mount Evans Observatory in Colorado. During those decades, so he was there for a long time, he co-founded the Front Range Astronomical Supercluster, what a name, a coalition of astronomy clubs. He was also the state coordinator for the Dark Sky Association, prior to that, he worked at several different NASA centers, including for a while their headquarters. And that included some space shuttle projects. Today, he lives in Ann Arbor and still pursues research and light pollution solutions. His topic tonight, updates on light pollution solutions. Robert, take it away.
Thank you, Dale, and greetings, everyone. I wish I could be there in person with you, but my night driving skills aren't quite what they used to be. So be it. I have to cue Dale T to advance the slides for us due to a glitch on my side. But Dale, next slide. So just to mention the key points tonight, always want to ask questions about your outdoor lighting, especially if it's under your control. First, is it really useful where and when you're using it? Is it necessary? Do you have to light that plant in the back of the yard, for example? Is it of sufficiently low brightness to not intrude on neighbors? Could it be time controlled, motion sensors or timer, that sort of thing? And finally, especially with the newer LEDs, advocating a warmer color that is more the yellow part of the spectrum, solar colors, rather than the hot blue-white colors of some of these LEDs. But we'll get into details about those soon. Dale? Thank you. Why am I giving a talk like this? Well, like some of you, I've been a sky watcher since Sputnik, and also last century picked up my astronomy PhD here at Ann Arbor. Subsequently went off to various NASA centers and headquarters, supporting various programs in astrophysics. From there, I landed at the University of Colorado and then the University of Denver in a faculty role. And as mentioned, also got involved in the dark skies movement over a few decades of time. But all good things come to an end. And so a couple of years ago, retired from that. And because of family in this area, retired back here with my wife, but continue my activities as an astronomer at large. Next slide. So telescopes were mentioned. You might find these interesting. In the top and lower left, we have our historic Chamberlin Observatory, an 1894 structure featuring a Alvin Clark 20-inch refractor, Fraunhofer doublet f/15 ratio, fabulous views of planets and bright optics. In addition, I was able to pull together the support to build a rooftop telescope student astronomy lab, not as glorious as the one we have here at Eastern Michigan University, but a modest 16-inch in a pole barn type roll-off cover, running some Software Bisque products, SkyX. Software Bisque is a Denver area company, so it was great to have them for collaboration and support. Also, next slide, mention the Mountain Observatory. So U of Denver had access to a parcel at 14,000 feet elevation and originally set up for cosmic ray studies and for aeronomy, study of the Earth's atmosphere, but the jump to astronomical work became feasible with the space race. And I inherited the management of the site. We were able to upgrade with a bequest to the observatory you see there on the left, and the Meyer Binocular Telescope, a really unique custom twin 28-inch Ritchie-Chrétien F21 effective, also using Sky software control, primarily optical, infrared capable. Logistics always are a challenge, at least before infrared detectors became as capable as they are now. Back then it was cryogens, and that can be a challenge. Semi-automated, but had a great run until a Class 4 hurricane came along in 2012 and damaged the building and the telescope. Haven't really recovered from it, and budget's always a problem, but who knows? Maybe there's a second life out there somewhere for it. Next slide. I've also had the privilege of using an even bigger telescope, namely one with a effective 300-meter aperture, not a radio telescope, but an optical infrared array known as the Chara array there at Mount Wilson Observatory. What did we do with it? Well, every nearly 27 years, a eclipse of the bright star Epsilon Aurigae occurs, and during 2010, that eclipse was scheduled to occur. The interferometer was up to speed, capable of doing the job, and we were able to observe, directly image, if you will, this mysterious dark companion transiting the disk. Here we see a couple of snapshots about a month apart. And of course, subsequent to this, all kinds of astrophysical disks have been recognized, exoplanets in particular, young stellar objects, not to mention galaxies and so on. But the point is, the resolution here is at the milli-arcsecond level, that is 1,000th of an arcsecond, which is equivalent to a few microradians for those of you like the engineering equivalent. If you hang around for the next eclipse in 2036, hopefully even better instrumentation by then. Next slide. So let me spend a moment explaining about astronomical interferometry. And it's all based on use of Fourier transforms. If you don't know what a Fourier transform is, that's okay. We can deconvolve or deconstruct any function, 2D, 3D, etc., into the product, the series of sines and cosine waves of differing frequencies and orientation effectively. So functionally, we use the six telescopes separated by upwards of 300 meters and less and more, using the so-called beam combiner techniques. All those individual light beams are bundled together to a place where the interference pattern of those sources of light, generally fairly narrow wavelength, but those interference patterns can be read out to determine the nature of the signal. And that's shown in an, well, first upper right, that funny X-shaped image is the so-called UV plane coverage. And that means how well are we sampling the image of the cat in this case. And with enough sampling, you get enough puzzle pieces in your box of puzzle pieces to reassemble an image. And again, harking to the Fourier sine cosine frequencies, if you select different subsets covering either a close-in baseline with less resolution or a larger baseline with more resolution, you can combine those things to recover the image of the cat in this case, or the dark disk in the case of Epsilon Aurigae. So I'm happy to pause for any questions about this. It's a whole separate talk maybe, but just to give you a sense of what I've done prior to meeting with you. So if there are no questions, why don't we proceed to the next slide, which is topic A. So as we saw earlier in the meeting, some really nice images. Imagine what you could see without light pollution interference in your neighborhood. It's a lofty goal, but in a truly dark site, people like Chris Peterson with his cloud-based observatory can image Sharpless 2-124, interesting nebula and exquisite detail, of course, possible these days. Next slide. Of course, as you know, here in Southeast Michigan, we should be able to see the night sky better, but there's a lot of misaimed lights we call light pollution. Now, the cross I've marked at that light blob near top center is Warren, Michigan. Grant Brook's not far away, of course. And the larger part of the white blob is, of course, Denver, or excuse me, Detroit. Confuse the two sometimes, but Detroit. And this is a 200-mile wide scene. So you can pick out, of course, some of the towns surrounding us. Windsor to the 4 o'clock position, Toledo there at 6 o'clock-ish. And going off toward 9 o'clock, we've got both Lansing and Grand Rapids, and so on. So it gives you a sense of what we're up against in terms of local light pollution. There on the right, that blue spot is the middle of Lake Erie. So if you want to paddle your boat out to that point, you probably could get some darker skies. Next slide. So what are the consequences of lighting up the night? Well, the big three are called glare, trespass, and sky glow. All three are pretty obvious, but just to state the obvious, glare is light shining in your eyes or in your optical device, causing problems, reducing contrast and other difficulties. Trespass is light coming to an area you don't really welcome it being. For example, your neighbor puts up a super bright light and it lights up your windows unwelcomed. Of course, sky glow is the consequence of all these misaimed lights, and I presume everyone in this group is well aware of what that looks like. In total, though, it's really an engineering challenge. It amounts to inefficiently using the energy, the electrical energy we generate at a cost and squandering it effectively. Are we intending to light up the moon? I don't think so, but next slide. So back to some aspects of good night lighting. Is it really useful? Now, why do you want a light there where it is if you have say-so over it or live in a community that might consider how best to manage these things? Is that light truly necessary? Okay, if you have to have it, is it at least aimed and bounded or targeted? In the lower panel, you see some examples. To the left side, paranoid homeowner lighting up everything in sight effectively, and double coverage over the front door, for example. Again, very inefficient. And of course, although it looks like it's going downward, it often is coming out toward you as well, blinding. Maybe they can see you approaching from inside, but you might have difficulty navigating trying to go there. In contrast, on the right side, one well-aimed light at the front door where you expect most traffic to be can do the job without squandering energy and blinding the neighbors. Darksky.org is a place to look for more details about these things, but next slide, please. Some more aspects. So you have a light, deem it necessary. What about the proper brightness level? Does it have to be hundreds of watts bright, or could you get by with a 25-watt lamp? You know, these LEDs are remarkably efficient. They pump out a lot of brightness units per watt of input, many times what the old incandescents were capable of doing. So ponder what the proper brightness is. Recall that your eyes adapted to nighttime under moon level illumination, which on standard scale is a couple fractions of a foot candle of brightness. We'll come back to units of brightness soon enough. Foot candle is what it sounds like. Light a candle, put up a screen 1 foot away, that's a foot candle of brightness. The moon, full moon at night, will deliver about half of a foot candle on the ground. Again, your eyes have adapted to that. Of course, that's at walking speed, not at 60 miles an hour. Is the light being controlled? Is it just sitting there on all night or on all day and night? wasting energy and your money if you own that circuit? Or could it be on a timer or motion sensor or simply switched off at times? And finally, back to the color of these, they're known as color temperatures or CCT. You'll find indications on most light bulb packaging about their color temperature, typically ranging from a couple thousand to 5,000 plus degrees Kelvin. Now, they're not technically actually 5,000 Kelvin to the touch, but they emit so much of the blue part of the spectrum that they mimic a blue-white star such as Vega, which you may know is a 10,000 degree Kelvin source. But of course, that's dense enough to emit the whole color spectrum. The LEDs emit a partial color spectrum, and the blue-white hot LEDs emit a heck of a lot of blue wavelength light, which has negative impacts not only in terms of scattering in our atmosphere. Blue light scatters a lot more efficiently, lights up the night sky, but it can actually be of those photons are of sufficient energy to start disrupting some of your biological molecules, especially in your retina, because you only need a few millivolts of energy in terms of molecular activity to trigger things like seeing. But these blue-white photons are hitting you at several electron volts of energy, well in excess of what could be damaging. You're basically sunburning your retina if you stare at those things too long. Next slide. If some of you are technically minded, you might find this database interesting. It provides a whole raft of scientific publications into light pollution studies. It's known as the ALAN database, Artificial Light at Night, and the full website is zotero.org, etc. But you can find this linked at darksky.org. And since Dale will have a copy of these slides, perhaps that could be shared with members as well. Next slide. I should comment that the ALAN database has publications about technical aspects of lighting, real and proposed invented lighting, as well as safety discussions and sociological impacts of good lighting, bad lighting, and on and on. And examples, US, Europe, elsewhere, of successes and failures with different lighting management strategies. Speaking of lighting management strategies, Ann Arbor's gone through an interesting turn of events about changing over the existing high-pressure sodium streetlights to LED streetlights. And that's, of course, motivated by the energy efficiency, the cost to the city of running thousands of streetlights for a more efficient LED system is significant, probably 5 to 6 figures per year. Of course, having the availability of matching grant money, federal infrastructure money in this case, sweetened the pot. The discussion boiled down to what wattage to use, 58-watt LED versus 29-watt LED lamps. Fortunately, everyone came to agreement that the lower color temperature, 2750 Kelvin, again, that may sound high, but it's actually a spectrum temperature that is more yellow solar kind of color to it, as opposed to a 5,000 or hot blue-white type color. Really key point if you get into anything like this in your town. There was a lot of push and pull about trade-offs between cost and safety. And as you can imagine, well, we could start with the 28-watt lamps, but the lawyers want to double it for safety, and the engineers want to double that for more safety, and on it goes around and around. If you've been in these discussions of anything like light pollution and lighting, you know it doesn't take much to amp up the lighting levels, and you probably have experienced that. For example, at gas station canopies, you pull into the place and the overhead lighting is so intense that you lose your night vision, especially dangerous when you're leaving the facility and can't see any pedestrians or even other vehicles temporarily while you're trying to adjust to the ambient lighting outside of that area. Nonetheless, Detroit Edison City Council staffers, light pollution activists, Michigan Dark Skies Group, which is a local organization, tries to promote smart lighting in Southeast Michigan anyway. Some of you may know Professor Sally Uy, who's been a central figure in that effort for some time. We got some partial success getting them to consider a compromise shown in the next slide, which was a 48-watt lamp alternative. Dale? Thank you. Of course, as implied, the electrical provider and contractor for a lot of urban street lighting is DTE Energy in our region. And any light you spec for street lighting, lots of commercial lights too, even what you might find at Lowe's or Home Depot, you should be able to find the BUG rating. BUG stands for backlight, uplight, and glare. So thanks to Dark Sky Association, the manufacturers have caught on to the idea that scattering light randomly into space is not efficient. So they actually spec and characterize their products with these backlight, uplight, glare ratings. In the case of this streetlight selected a Leotech Green Cobra lamp, 48 watt, 5,000 lumens. What's 5,000 lumen? Well, the laptop screen that I see Bob Tremblay staring at is probably about 100 lumens for comparison for the screen in front of the auditorium. You know, that gives you a sense of what 5,000 lumens coming to the ground. It's meant to deliver about a foot candle at the ground. Of course, it's mounted on a 30, 40-foot pole. And this particular lamp is spec'd having a backlight of 2. So it's not all going just below onto the street. Some of it's splashing back, presumably toward a sidewalk. Uplight 0, because of the flat configuration of the lighted portion. Fortunately, you don't have light going above the horizon. A little bit, of course, but depends on how it's mounted. And then the glare rating, because there's so many lumens involved, from a number of angles, as seen from below, you're going to get a fair amount of light into your eyes. And so it doesn't come in at a 0 glare rating. By the way, that's on a scale of 0 to 5, typically. Of course, if you're really interested, there are spec sheets for these things. And if you see lamps like this coming to you, or even with your existing street lights, which are usually the thing most people worry about, there are these shades called house side shields available through DTE on request. I've got a couple of obnoxious streetlights surrounding me, and through the DTE portal where you can report a broken streetlight, failed streetlight, you can also put in a request for a house side shield to at least knock out some of that excess brightness that otherwise would end up in your house. Dale, next slide. So in the process of looking at what Ann Arbor could do, it turns out the city maintains a nice database of streetlights. And of course, DTE is owner of half of the streetlights around here. The city actually owns the other half. I'm sure it's a historical mix that's arisen. But here we see a little section of town with all the individual streetlights labeled, and through a particular city website, you can go in and pick on a individual streetlight and come up with that information box showing you by a tag. This one is 2500211, but it tells you the wattage, the type, high pressure sodium, the owner, DTE in this case, and in this case also the number of lamp heads. It's 2 because it's over a boulevard street, so you use the same pole to light left and right sides, if you will. Chances are your town, a town of any size, would have a database if they're buying power from DTE in particular. Dale, next slide. So speaking of your area, I looked up what are the lighting regs applicable in Warren, Michigan. I didn't get over to the Cranbrook area, Bloomfield Hills, but they too probably have something comparable. Many towns have this kind of thing. In the local codes, you'll find, in this case, Division 4 lighting, residential use in residential districts and non-residential development. So a subsection, residential lighting shall not encroach upon abutting properties. That's your basic light trespass story. And it's certainly the #1 complaint most city managers get about bad lighting, that neighbor's light is lighting up my bedroom windows and I don't want that. The Warren Code goes on to talk about lighting in parking lots and signage lighting, temporary or fixed. There's probably loads more information available if you contact your city engineer, whether it's Warren or Bloomfield Hills or wherever. And for even more, you could look at the darksky.org website. They have what are called model lighting ordinances, where it's a basic template recommending smarter lighting approaches, and a number of towns across the nation have adopted those or gin them up to meet their own peculiar local needs. What could be peculiar? Well, back in Colorado, because there are so many hilly areas, somebody's light built on a street above your street, their light might be well aimed to the ground, but the ground slopes away and it would end up down on your property, conceivably. So there's always local conditions to take into account. Next slide, please. Speaking of local conditions, there are lots of light pollution maps available. Maybe you've seen some in your web travels. Here's a newer one you might not have looked at yet, and I've highlighted with that pushpin marker Warren. And of course, apparently Van Dyke Highway 53 defines the western half of the town. Those of you who live in Warren can probably affirm that the west side is more brightly lit, that commercial strip, compared to the east half of the town. The particular website here, lighttrends.lightpollutionmap.info, has snapshots for each year since 2014, and you can flip through those to see what's changed. In this area, pretty well already developed, not much change noticeable, but you might want to watch it when towns start implementing LEDs. If they're not smart about it and go with overly blue-white LEDs of high temperature, you'll see this map light up considerably in comparison, as well as your night skies disappear. Next slide, please. Other large towns have dealt with this same set of issues in different ways. In particular, you may know of Adler Planetarium, hopefully been there a time or 6. They have an outreach program called YOLO, Youth Organization for Lights Out, and they engage high school teens to help protect some dark skies. They had a big effort to protect the Talos Preserves area, more or less in the middle of that street map satellite image, that dark patch. I've got an arrow pointing toward it, might be a little tough to see, but it's a designated urban dark sky site. The youth have also been instrumental in getting inventory of their sections of town, of the good, bad, and ugly lighting that they're up against. And, it's just setting the stage to try to improve on the lighting. Night lighting is essential in our fast-paced modern life, but we could be smarter about it, save energy, less stress to pedestrians, observers, residents, and hopefully improve the situation for everybody. Along those lines, a very interesting website called lightjustice.org, which is essentially an environmental website, environmental justice website, namely that especially in older urban centers, you have a lot of, frankly, outdated lighting that is producing glare and trespass like crazy. And that really is not beneficial for the residents in those areas. And so lightjustice.org is campaigning to try to raise awareness of what can be done better. And if you're interested, I encourage you to take a look at what they're up to. Next slide, please. What else could be done locally? Well, mention doing an inventory. You might be able to think of some badly aimed lights, excessively bright, at the drop of a hat. You see them every night, basically. But wanted to float a business idea for interested energetic parties, retrofitting lights with shades. Put a shield over them. For example, this design, upper right, is known as a wall pack light. And maybe you're familiar with these glare bombs, often mounted on commercial buildings, perhaps familiar enough to you. The sad fact is that most of them ship with a shade already provided. And generally the shade gets lost in the shuffle and not installed properly. So you end up with a lamp like this with a really bad bug rating. That is not so much backlighting, but the uplighting and glare are substantial. What one could consider is with, say, an IBEW union electrician partner and an apprentice, for the cost of some materials and startup capital and consideration of staff cash flow and advertising, put a shade on it, redirect the light down to where it's really wanted, typically parking or an alley or something. Doesn't have to go up into the sky. And there might even be a return on investment if some energetic person were to pursue that. Next slide, please. So corollary is, where could I find some dark skies? And of course, many of you know, and sounds like a lot of you do, traipse off to 29-mile road to get some dark skies. On the scale of Michigan, of course, and here in the right-hand side, you see the lakes, Michigan, Huron, marked to help you identify the lower peninsula. And of course, the big splot of light defining Detroit metro and all of our towns and cities surrounding it. But as near as Adrian, Lenawee County, we have the Lake Hudson Recreation, which is a dark sky preserve, so designated by Dark Sky Society. And a little further afield, T.K. Lawless Park in Cass County, Dowagiac, is a comparable dark sky site. Probably some of you have been to those places. And of course, to the north, you'll notice the bluer colors indicating a lot less stray light. There are increasing numbers of tourist venues where you can come up. They'll even provide a telescope to let you enjoy the dark skies of their location, and also Upper Peninsula and adjacent states in Canada. Next slide, please. So just to wrap around in summary, always ask about a light, especially a light you control or a light you have a vote about. Is it, first of all, useful? Is it truly necessary? Could it be done at a lower brightness level? Could it be time controlled in some manner? And can we go with the warmer solar-like color and not the hot blue-white LED colors that are available? And you've seen those, 20 by 20 LED arrays that you mount on the garage to light up the whole neighborhood. So bottom line here is to spread the word about these ideas, look at the darksky.org website, and of course, being timely, hopefully get out there and vote. Next slide. So thanks for your attention. Open to discussion. As mentioned earlier in the meeting, these new cameras are phenomenal in their ability to catch, in this case, auroral colors or Comet A3 recently in a good dark site. And I look forward to your comments and questions, and maybe someday coming up to 29 mile and checking out your observatory.
So do we have any questions? I have a question. Have the efforts in the Ann Arbor area to date made a discernible difference?
Well, we're not quite at the installation stage. So what I'm reporting on is basically over the course of spring, getting city council to engage in a contract with DTE to begin installing those lights. And if you've built with DTE, sometimes it takes them a while to get things on order and so on.
Yeah.
I'm being polite.
Yes, but at least it sounds like there's a plan.
Right, and it may serve as a template for your community. If this succeeds, maybe you could more successfully argue for the lower wattage lamps once we have a live demonstration of how overbright the 58 watts turn out to be.
Okay. Yes, Laura.
On the outside of your house, if you have a more yellow light as opposed to a whiter light, and you see it as well to walk around the house.
Okay.
Could you relay the question?
Yeah. I was just waiting to make sure I had caught the whole question. So the question is, suppose you put around your own house a more yellowish light as opposed to a bluish white light. The question is, can you still see as well to walk around your house at night?
Well, if your eyes are reasonably healthy, you should be able to. And again, it comes down to wattage and aim. If you're trying to light a walkway, aim that light a little bit to get what you need, where you need it. If you need to light up the whole street, well, that's a different matter. But yeah, again, your eyes are remarkably sensitive instruments. So, do the experiment, try different bulbs, wattages, colors, see what works for you. Blue-white light is great for fine detail work if you're repairing watches or something on a workbench or sewing or whatever. You'd like to have that light bright enough in front of you and of a color to give you optimal resolution. But you really don't need that to walk down the garden path.
Right. Any other questions? Yes.
Comment. If you remember Santayana, who said those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. We had a time when I was young when there was very little light pollution at all during World War II. Houses had to have special blackout lines. Automobiles had blackout headlamps, but it didn't matter because nobody would drive at night anyways, because you couldn't afford the gas because of the stamps. And the street lights all had hoods on them to keep the light from going up and only went down. Everybody was afraid of either the Japanese or the Germans bombing the cities. And so there was control of pollution.
So the comment is that during World War II, there are all kind of restrictions on lighting and blacking out lights and so forth to avoid either Japan or Germany sending aircraft to bomb cities. This wouldn't have been a concern here in Michigan, but on the coastlines, I presume it was a concern.
Detroit had it also.
Detroit had it also.
I could see the Milky Way from downtown Detroit at night.
Comment is that during that time period from downtown Detroit, which also had these rules, he could see the Milky Way from downtown Detroit.
Right. Well, you can be sure that, you know, the Axis powers were aware of the Rouge plant and Willow Run. So if they had a chance, they'd like to take them out.
Right.
Since automobiles were mentioned, maybe not everyone's aware that adaptive headlights are slowly coming into practice. This is a standard the Europeans adopted so that if your headlights sense oncoming headlights, both will automatically lower or dim or something, allowing you to see what's coming. As many of you know, night driving is challenging if you've got overly bright headlights facing you, but there's relief in sight. It's called adaptive headlights. It's been adopted by Department of Transportation, but like DTE, it may be a several-year process to get there.
Yeah, my car has that already.
Oh,
Adaptive
nice.
headlight. Riyadh.
One question. If you have blue light, same brightness, same color temperature, one is made of continuous spectrum and one is made of narrowband spectrum, which one is most for the eye?
Okay, this is a little more complex of a question, as one might expect from Riyadh. The question is, if you have two lights of the same brightness and overall the same spectrum spread over this whole spectrum, but one of the lights is a continuous spread, the other has light output at discrete wavelengths, is there a difference in terms of what our perceptions would be? How's that for an easy one?
Well, sure. As defined, the continuum light shows all colors, and your old incandescents are essentially that. A light with discrete emissions to it. Now, for example, a neon light has a very characteristic orange color. These high-pressure sodium lamps are very yellow in appearance. The issue with the blue, hotter LEDs is that you do get a nice continuum, essentially, but there's a short wavelength spike at around 450 nanometers, which is the blue-violet part of the spectrum. And that's what's potentially damaging to the sky, to your eyes, and so on, if there's too much of it. Does that address the question?
I think reasonably well, yes. There were some more questions, I think, yes.
I live in Hampton, so that's right in the middle of that white spot, and maybe I can see it, sorry. I was looking at pollution, light pollution filters, and we recently switched over to LED. And I'm just wondering, from what I understand, there really isn't much good in buying a light pollution filter now, or perhaps my research is wrong on that. Wondering if you could comment on it.
Do you mean a light pollution filter for your eyepiece?
Yeah.
So the question is, there are so-called light pollution filters that you can screw into your eyepiece. With changes in the type of lighting that are used these days, do you have a view on whether those light pollution filters still do something for you?
Right. The traditional light pollution filters were mainly trying to take out essentially the old mercury vapor spectrum, but those are far less common, of course. I gather they don't work as well on LED type lighting. Just way too much creeping through that filter. But I believe there are some newer products, Lumicon comes to mind, might be worth looking at the specs on those to see whether they're trying to accommodate the changes in the light of the night sky. I'm sorry, I don't have anything more specific for you at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Was there another question? Okay. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Stencel.
See you next time.
All right, so thank you again. And say our next meeting is in 2 weeks on November 21st at Macomb Community College South Campus. Our next star party at Stargate Observatory is Saturday, November 23rd. And we meet afterwards at the Red Coat Tavern, Woodward, north of 13 Mile. Good night and clear skies, everyone.
Shut it down, Bob.
Before I shut it down.
I told you, I'm
What do you
always
got?
gonna bring one, because I would
What
like
do
to
you
get a
got?
copy.
What do you got?